learning with HTML. So before I go over the content, I want to go over a little bit about why the web, like why the web is a platform to build apps on. So this club will be more about like web app development club than it is about like website development. We try to aim like to teach you guys the skills that you need to develop apps and not like websites. And the web just so happens to be the best platform to do that. And the biggest reason I think is cross-platform. So if you don't have to sort of build separate apps for Android, iOS, or like desktop apps like with Windows or Mac OS or Linux. You have one code base, and as long as the platform has a browser, your app can run on the browser, right? So it's cross-platform, and because it's cross-platform, it's accessible, right? When it's accessible, a lot of tools are made for developers on the web, more so than for desktop apps and for mobile apps. And so because of that, it has become very, very accessible, very, very easy to build web apps. And so we want you to think like we're trying to teach you how to build apps. And it just so happens that the web is the best platform to do that. And you'll see in a bit why that is. You're going to find that you're going to be building apps. You're going to get further in your app development on the web platform than you will if you were to try to build a desktop app or an iOS app or an Android app. And obviously, it's very in demand right now for the same reasons. I think it's probably one of, if not the most in-demand skills. If you just go on, Indeed or like the job postings, you'll find that a lot of the so-called software like engineering roles will list a lot of skills that are web related, right? All right. So what's the goal? So we're gonna try and do things a little bit differently this year. So first of all, we try to cover enough to explore more yourself, right? So unfortunately, we don't have time to sort of go through everything you need to know to sort of become like full stack developer, but we hope to sort of cover enough that you can sort of dig deep on your own. There's tons of rabbit holes that you can go into. And so we sort of like want you to have that foundation of understanding how the web technologies work under the hood so you can read docs yourself and just sort of figure things out yourself. The second thing is it's more project-based, so we're going to have you walk away with 2 projects, hopefully. We're not going to hold your hand to it, so the success and the quality of these projects will depend heavily on you guys. But, if you create good projects, you can show off on your resume, and it's going to be really, really helpful if you're searching for an internship. And lastly, we want to inspire, right? We want to have you realize that the web is the ultimate platform for building apps, and that we want you to sort of dig deeper on your own because, like I said, we can't really cover everything there is to know. So here's a tentative timeline. Things change a lot, so it's very tentative. We have 10 weeks. So the first 5 weeks, we're going to go over HTML, CSS, JavaScript. The first 3 is the core technologies, and that's all front end. And then starting from week 4, we're going to try and sort of prepare you for back end with first the command line and then getting used to GitHub. So the first 5 weeks, we're going to be building a personal website or any sort of site. It's really just up to you, right? It's just a plain website. And then the last 5 weeks, week 6, week 10, we're going to be going over Node, Express, which is backend, MongoDB, right? So these 2 weeks, the week 4 and week 5, are preparing you for backend. Week 6 and week 9 are like the actual backend. So Node and Express, that's backend. MongoDB, that's the database. React, we're trying to do React after that because we want to learn Node first. And then deployment and rendering strategies. And then on the last week, we're going to sort of cover different web technologies that are outside the JavaScript stack, right? So there's like Ruby on Rails. There's also like other JavaScript stuff, like Next.js, TypeScript, and there's also like Java stuff like Spring Boot, and there's like C# with .NET. There's tons of things on the web, so we try to cover a little bit of that on the last week. And then for the week 6 and week 9, we're going to be building a content management system. So with the front end and the back end, so it'll be a full stack application. And the content management system will be supporting the website that we built on the first 3-4 weeks. So yeah, prerequisites. We don't really have any prerequisites with regards to the web. All we need is for you to know the basics of programming: variables, conditional statements, if else statements, right? For loops, while loops. Raise your hand if you're like in computing. Maybe yeah. Okay. So raise your hand if you're first year. So most of us are first year. So if you're first year, you're gonna go over like I think 121 and 124, which is Python and Java. So you're gonna, if you don't know programming, you're gonna know it eventually. But if you don't know anything about programming, um, it's not too hard to learn the basics. So yeah, functions, data types, the basics, integers, strings, and whatnot, and the basics of OOP. This might be the hardest one. Just understanding classes and objects. That's all that's needed. And then yeah, we don't really need this for HTML, CSS. We need this for JavaScript. So where to find everything? So we try to this year try to make everything like in one place so you don't get a little dizzy. So if you just Google QWEB GitHub, you'll find the QWEB GitHub account, and then under that account you should be able to find a repository called Education 25. And Education 25 is the place where we host everything: slides, the curriculum, the actual source code, everything is on there, either on the README or on the source code. So if you really can't find it, that's the QR code, but I'm pretty sure you guys can find it. Yeah, sometimes there's installation instructions. So for example, Node and with Git, you have to install the thing. So we're gonna be posting all that on GitHub as well. We're not gonna walk you through how to install it because it's a waste of time. So you will be able to have to do that yourself. And if you're confused, just look on the GitHub, it will teach you how to do that. But I'm pretty sure you guys can Google it. It's not too difficult. So yeah, that's it for the intro. Let's go over to the web. So here's a bit about how the web works. Essentially, no matter how complicated websites are, there's only three core technologies in the front end. HTML, which is responsible for the content of the web page, CSS, which is responsible for the presentation, the styling, and JavaScript, which is responsible for the functionality of the page. Pretty straightforward, right? JavaScript is a programming language, just like Python is. But HTML, CSS are more like presentation and content and whatnot. So when we look at the front end we see, it always boils down to these three things, and these three things are the only thing that your browser understands. So when you request, for example, if you go to Google.com, what happens is your browser sends an HTTP request to one of Google's servers, and server is just a very fancy name for a computer. So your browser sends an HTTP request to one of Google's computers, and then Google computer will sort of send back HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files back to your browser. Your browser sort of downloads those three types of files. And then your browser will render the HTML and CSS on the screen, right? So that's the browser doing most of the heavy lifting. And then JavaScript will be run on the browser as well, right? So your browser is really doing all the heavy lifting. This is why I say the web is the most accessible platform, because most of the heavy lifting, right, the hard work of rendering graphics and making it compatible with different operating systems is delegated to the browser. So that's essentially how the web works. So right now I'm going to learn HTML, which is the first thing that you need to know. So what is HTML? It stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is a standard meant for writing documents meant to be rendered by a browser. So the standard is very, very long. If you look here at the specs, so this is a spec. If you ever decide you want to create a browser, which I don't recommend, this is the spec you have to follow. This is like a plain sort of HTML, a bit of CSS type, but you can see that my computer is lagging already because of the sheer amount of content like this. Yeah, anyways. So you don't need to know everything there is to know on that specification. HTML is actually pretty simple. There are only a few tags that you need to remember. So everything in HTML is an element, and that's basically all you need to know. An element is composed of a opening tag and closing tag. The opening tag you see is enclosed with angle brackets, and then between these angle brackets is the name of the element. So P stands for paragraph, and then what's in between these two tags, the opening tag and the closing tag, is the actual content. And you'll see that the closing tag has a slash on it as well. This is specified as the closing tag, and everything is just that. You can have tags inside tags inside tags. You can even have tags like adjacent to each other. It's really just all up to you, but everything is the tag. The setup, just VS Code. Raise your hand if you don't have VS Code installed. Oh yeah, VS Code installed. If you don't have VS Code installed, I would highly recommend installing it. Most of you guys do, which is great. It doesn't have to be VS Code. VS Code it is the code editor. It is the most popular code editor, and it is something that you'll be using not just in web development, but in just your classes as well. So I highly recommend it. But most of you guys have it, so that's great. And that's really it. as long as you have a browser, and I'll be very surprised if you're running a computer without a browser. Everything else is there. Okay. So this is the website I'm going to try to build. It's a portfolio site. It doesn't have to be exactly like this, but we want it to be whatever it is. Like, okay, so the title, right? Did you just disable the microphone?
There's a lot of feedback coming out. So
Yeah.
the bottom.
Wait, so is there like, is it still playing? Still going?
So
Testing, testing, testing.
it looks like for some reason my phone goes slowly.
Testing, testing. Okay. Okay. So this is the structure of can you guys hear me all right? Yeah, great. Okay, so this is the structure of the portfolio. You got the name, you get like a subheading of like about me, you get a picture, you get skills and like the technologies that you're familiar with, and then like a contact with your GitHub, LinkedIn, email, and whatnot. It's a very popular sort of structure. It's a very ugly site right now because we don't have CSS, but we are going to try and make this site with just HTML. So I have the source code with me just in case I forget. So because you guys are not familiar with the command line yet, we're going to try and build, well, we're going to try and create the folder from scratch. So I'm not too familiar with Windows, but you can create the folder wherever you want. The folder will host all the code. So I'm going to create the folder in my desktop. So I'm going to say new folder. I'm pretty sure Windows has a similar use, right? Click in new folder. And then I'm going to say QWEB tutorials. And then here I'm going to write websites. So inside that folder, I have website folder. Inside this website folder, I'm going to have the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. The reason why I'm nesting it is because I want another folder here for the content management system, for the CMS. But for now, we just want the website. So inside the website folder, we're going to create a HTML file. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. But with Mac, you can create files, which is just amazing. But we're going to try and open the website folder with VS Code. So I'm going to go to VS Code. I'm going to go to File and Open Folder. And go to that folder and open. Folder. Blank folder, right? And then we need to create a file using VS Code. So if you see this little icon here, that's creating a new file. So let's create the first HTML file. So index.html. Index because that's sort of name convention for the first page you're going to land on when you go to a site. So you see an index.html, and then here we can start adding the page. So before we type anything, we need the boilerplate, the basic setup that we need to build a website. If you just type exclamation mark and then tab or enter, this will set up all the boilerplate. You don't have to know exactly what these mean. If you are very curious, you can just look it up yourself. But the head tag is metadata, so data about the website, and then everything that will be displayed is in the body. So the most important tag right now to look for is the title tag. So the title tag is the actual sort of title of the website on the tab. So for example, this one's week 1 intro HTML. This one's John 4, right? We want this to be like your name, right? Because it's your website. So I'm going to put John 4. Okay, now we have the title as John 4. How do we open this index.html? So as I've said, the browser is responsible for rendering the graphics of HTML. So if you just double click on the file, right? Just find the file, double click on it. Your default browser is going to open that up. And then we have a blank page right here, right? And you see that this is opening a file with our browser and the path of the actual file. So where are you lost?
Where you brought that code
The boilerplate, this thing? Okay, so if you just delete this, exclamation mark, and press tab or enter, boom, you have it, right? Okay, so if you guys are confused on anything, just let me know about it. Okay, and you'll see that the title of the tab is John Bork, right? So, okay, let's try to create this website. So what if we write text here? If we write text here, you go back, you have to refresh, Command R, Control R, and you'll see text. It's very tiny, but you see that there's a heading here, right? The heading is much bigger and it's bold. How do you make this big bold text? Well, it's a heading. So we need a special tag called H1. There is H1, H2, H3, all the way to H6, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, all the way heading 6. H1 is the first heading, H2 is the subheading, and then H3 is smaller, and then H4 is even smaller, and so on and so forth. So the biggest heading is H1. So if you just type in H1 and then press tab, you will have the H1 tag, right? And then you can write the content. So I'm gonna write John 4. And then you save that file, you go back to your website, you refresh the page, and you see the heading, right? It's in bold, it's big. So now we have the H1. The second thing we want is a subheading, a smaller heading about me, right? So that's H2. So we're gonna make an H2, right? Just type H2 and then press tab. And then you're gonna write about me, right? Very simple. You save the file, go back, refresh, about me. You get the idea. If we go back here, we want to create maybe a paragraph, right? So this paragraph, go down. I'm gonna type P. Right? And then I'm gonna copy and paste the sort of content. You can sort of copy whatever you want, or write whatever you want, I suppose. And then yeah, you have the P tag, and then inside the P tag is the content. And then you go back, you refresh. Very simple stuff. Now we have an image. So how do we embed an image? So an image, you use an image tag, right? An image tag is img. So if you have here, img, right? Just press img, press tab, and you'll have an image tag. Now, image tag doesn't really have a closing tag because there's no content within it, but it does have what we call attributes. So here we have the source attribute and we have the alt attributes. These attributes are inside the tag, right? So before you close it with the angle bracket, these are the attributes. And so the source attribute is equal to the string, the source of the image, right? And then the alt is the alternative text. So the text that will render if the image fails to render. So if the image fails to render, I'm just gonna say John 4. And for the source, we want to point to the actual image. So I'm just gonna download this image, save image as, and then I'm gonna john.png after. So downloads, and then okay, I'm gonna create a new folder here. I'm gonna name it assets, and then I'm gonna put all the assets or images inside that folder. So I have the downloads image. I'm gonna drag it to the assets folder, right? Once you download the image, just put it in there, and then you point to the actual image. So assets slash john.png. It is relative to the actual document that you're in. So index.html, relative to index.html, you go to assets folder, and inside that, you go to john.png. And then you go back, and it should work. So just to show you, if it fails to load, right, if you have a typo in the source, it will actually render the text, the alternative text. Okay, so that's the image. And then, all right, so skills. Very simple. Same thing, right? Skills is, I think, H2 subheading. So I'm going to create another one, H2 tab, skills, right? And then we have another subheading, so skills, and then languages. So that's an H3. Excuse me. Languages. And then you list all the languages that you know. So here we have a bullet point, sort of unlisted. Listed list consists of 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Unlisted, right? Okay, so we type in UL. UL stands for unordered list. Okay, UL stands for unordered list. UL tab new line. So I have more space to write in between these UL tags. And then I'm gonna type in LI, which stands for list item. And then I'm gonna type in the first language, which I think is Python, or no, HTML. And then if you go back to that page, you refresh, you have one bullet point, right? And so you can type in more. So li, CSS, JavaScript. Raise your hand if you know Python. Nice. Raise your hand if you know Java. Nice. Wait, raise your hand if you know JavaScript. Yeah. Okay, that's so good. C or C++, whatever. Refresh. Yeah, listen to that. Okay, so these are the exact same thing. I don't want to waste your time doing this. You have to do this as an H3, right? And then UL and then LI in there. And yeah, so let's try and do the context. So context is just H3. So I'm gonna go down here. Sorry, not H3, H2 actually. H2, contact. And then in here, this is a form. So it's a very ugly form. And so we want to first write the form tag. So form, FORM. Let's pass action equals to a string. This the action attribute is for backend. So it's not something we want to worry about right now. It's more for the functionality. So I'm just going to go skip to the actual content, and then I'm going to press a new tab. Inside this form tag is where we actually write the form. So first we need a label, right? We have a label. So this is a label, and this is an input. That's a label, that's an input, that's a label, that's an input. So first we need a label. So I'm going to do label, right? Just type label and then press tab or label enter. And then you have for equals to, again, that's for the backend. Actually, no. Label, I'm going to do F name, and you'll see why in a bit. So an inside label, I'm going to type in first name, right? Because that's what will be shown. We refresh, and we can see first name. And then now we just have a new input. So we just type in input, right? Input is another type of element. Press tab. We have an attribute called type. Input is a lot of inputs are using the input tag. I believe like collocator, text, password, email, even buttons. So the type is text, it's just plain text. And then we want the ID. So I'm gonna write another attribute in this tag. The ID equal to F name. Right? Why? Because the label is for F name. What this means is this label is for the element that has the ID of F name. So this label is for this input. So I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna refresh. If I click on the label, I will select the input, right? So that's how you can connect it to sort of label and input. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm going to go here, I'm gonna copy, I'm gonna paste, I'm gonna do last name, and then I'm gonna change this to last name. And then for everything else is the same. Type equals the text, but the ID is the last name, L name. Refresh, we have a last name. So if you press that, you get the inbox. If you press this as well, you also get the input box. So yeah, now we have a button, or no, we have a text area. So this is the bigger sort of text area instead of like one line, 8 lines here. You can even resize this. So this is the text area instead of an input. So we're gonna try and create that. So first we need a label. So I'm gonna write label. It's for subject, and it's gonna be subject. And then I'm gonna type in text area, which is another element. Text area tab, right? The name, again, name is sort of for the functionality. We're gonna ignore that for now. ID is subject, so the label will be for this element. And then inside the content, I'm gonna write nothing because the content is what will be inside the thing. Go back, refresh, oh not this one, refresh, and then we have a subject, right? And then you can sort of drag this box, resize it, right? You can write, create new lines, all that fun jazz. Nice. And that's the form. The functionality of this form we're going to cover later on with JavaScript, and we technically need a backend as well. But for now, it's just the actual visuals or the content. We need a submit button, obviously. So we're going to create that. And surprise, surprise, the submit button is just a submit element, right? So submit, sorry, but button. The button element is named button. So button, press tab, and you have the button, and then the content of the button will be what is shown on the button. So submit. And this is actually inside the form. Sorry about that. I'm going to delete this and put this here. So inside the form, there's a button. whenever there's a button inside a form, it automatically submits, right? But like you can create buttons for other types of things, and then using JavaScript, you can have those buttons do something else, right? And we're going to learn more about that when we get to JavaScript. But for now, button is just there so that we can see it. So if you go back here, you have a button, and if you press the button, nothing happens because we don't have any functionality right now. So, and then you have sort of contacts. These contacts, they link directly to, oh, this links to my GitHub, and then this links to, John Fork has a LinkedIn, by the way, which is very surprising. He was a head of business operations at Apple full time, and like this is kind of nuts. You're a human, you're just like PhD in human butcher. But yeah. Oh god, yeah, okay. I don't know who made this. I don't know. I just know he's in Los Altos, California. Anyways, so and then there's email. If you press email, uh, it will send you to like the default email thingy, and then you can actually type in the email and actually email them, right? And so I'll leave this side. Okay, so how do you create links? So links are created with anchor tags. Anchor tags are A tags. So A stands for anchor. So if we go down here and we want to maybe have like the GitHub link, right? So we do an A, just an A, type an A, and then press tab or enter, and then we have A tag. A tag has an href attribute. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. A tag has an href attribute. Href stands for hypertext reference, and hypertext reference is the actual link that you'll go to when you click on the link. So if I just go to my GitHub and I copy the link, right, and then I just paste it in the string, and then inside the content will be like what will actually be shown. So it will be like GitHub, right? I save this, go back, and then you have a link, right? You have a link. If you press, or if you click on that link, GitHub sends you straight to that link, right? And so I'm going to create one for the LinkedIn as well. So if I just go to his LinkedIn, I copy the link, I create an anchor tag, paste, LinkedIn, right? You got LinkedIn? That works. Now, when I go back here, if I click on this link, it creates a new tab, right? It opens the link in a new tab. Whereas this, if I click here, it opens the link on my current tab. So what if I wanted to, open it in a new tab? If you want a link to open in a new tab, you have to add another attribute called target. So like target of where that link will open, right? So target equals to, and I'm just write underscore blank, which is like the target is a new blank tab, I suppose. I don't really know what that means, but whatever. Target equals to underscore blank. Go back. And if you press on the link, it will open it in a new tab. But you'll see here that email is a bit different. So I want to do the same thing, right? So I'm going to create another anchor tag. Instead of a link, I want to write an email, but I'm going to prepend it with mail to. So I'm going to write href equals to mail to, colon, and then the actual email, which is, I guess, johnford.gmail.com. And then I'm going to go to the actual content and write email. I'm going to save that, right? So if you prepend the email with mail to, colon, and you go back, you refresh, and you press the mail, it will actually email, it will open up whatever email app you have as default. And I'm going to press, or I'm going to type in target equals to underscore blank. Yeah. Okay. But now you'll see that on the sort of demo page, I suppose, the links are inside images, right? So does anybody have any idea how we can create a link inside images? See here, that link is just a link, but this link is like an image. Link is an image. Link is just text. Sorry?
You know how like the old close bit
Opposite. Image inside the anchor. Exactly, yeah. So instead of like actual like text inside the content of the anchor tag, it's an image. So inside this, instead of email, for example, I'm gonna press like image, right? And you have like an image tag inside the anchor tag. That's how it works. I'm not gonna do that because I don't want to download the image, so I'm lazy. But yeah, is there anything else? No. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, wait, one thing. This tab has this little icon right here, so okay, and this one does not. Does not. And so this thing is called a favicon. And so it's actually, if we want a favicon, we actually have to go to the head tag, right? The metadata. And then I'm gonna actually go to here, and then I'm gonna type in link, right? The link tag, and then I'm gonna press tab. No, sorry, link, and then it has a bunch of links, right? I'm gonna go to link favicon, and then the href will be the actual, point to the actual image, right? Just like an image. So I'm gonna favicon. Yeah, this looks cute. Save image as and download to my downloads. And then I'm gonna drag it to the assets. And then I'm gonna point to it. So assets/pig.png. And then I go back, I refresh, and we have this. What else is there? Pretty much it. So you guys just learned. What did you guys learn? You guys learned the boilerplate, the title, the favicon, H1, H2, H3. You guys learned unordered lists and nesting tabs. You guys learned about forms and inputs and buttons, attributes and links. So yeah, that's pretty much it for HTML. Now, is that everything you need to know for HTML? No. Is there more in HTML? Of course. You know how long the specification is. But these are some of the most commonly used tags. If you're curious, for example, I wonder how I can create this in HTML. Just Google it, and you'll find it. General gist of HTML is pretty simple, so the pattern is always the same. It's just a bunch of tags. So additional resources. So I just had to mention this. GitHub offers a student pack for every single student in North America. So how many people know about this? Raise your hand if you know the GitHub student pack. Yeah, some people do. But if you don't, you're missing out because it has a lot of stuff. I believe if you sign up for GitHub student pack, you get like free JetBrains editors. So that's like IntelliJ, PyCharm, and all that. Or like the premium version of them, I suppose. And then you get free GitHub Pro. You get free domains. You get free like credits for cloud services. You get a lot of free stuff. So I would highly recommend you check that out. And if you're not familiar with VS Code, check out the docs. I highly recommend you sort of get used to and get comfortable with your editor. And then lastly, MDN. So if you go here, type in MDN. MDN is the web doc, so it is more user-friendly way of documenting web stuff. So if you're curious about what an image tag is for, we'll type in IMG. And then you'll see everything there is to know about IMG. It has documentations for the four technologies: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And trust me, you'll be using this a lot for CSS and JavaScript. So yeah, that's it.
If anyone has any questions, you can come up and ask us about it.
Yeah.